I didn't know this road would change me. Some journeys don't start with a plan. Peru, land of contrasts. Our journey begins in Lima and takes us from the Pacific coast up into the mystical Andes to the lost wonder of the world, Machu Picchu. South of Lima, the landscape changes dramatically. The deep blue of the Pacific slowly fades, giving way to one of the driest deserts in the world. Here, rain is a rarity. Wind, sand, and time shape the land instead. At first glance, the desert feels empty, almost silent. But look closer, and you begin to notice its rhythm. Life adapts, people endure. Stories unfold quietly beneath the vast sky. This is the edge of Peru, where the ocean meets the desert, and nothing is quite as simple as it seems. The road stretches forward, unhurried, cutting through a land shaped by wind, heat, and time. As we move on, the desert begins to feel endless. Sand replaces rock, and the horizon blurs under the weight of the sun. This is one of the driest regions on Earth, a place where life survives only by adapting, by finding balance in scarcity. And then, almost unexpectedly, the desert reveals a secret. Huacachina appears like a mirage, a small oasis cradled by towering sand dunes. Palm trees surround a natural lagoon, their reflections trembling in the still water. For centuries, this oasis has offered rest and refuge to travelers crossing the desert, a rare pause in a harsh and unforgiving landscape. Local legends speak of healing waters and ancient spirits, stories born from a place where water feels almost impossible. Whether myth or memory, Huacachina carries a sense of timelessness, a reminder that even in the driest places, life finds a way to endure. As we approach, the contrast is striking. After kilometers of emptiness, this pocket of green feels almost unreal. A quiet meeting point between nature and survival, between movement and rest. The journey continues, but for a moment, the desert allows us to stop, to breathe, to observe, and to remember that wonder often appears when we least expect it. As evening approached, we returned to the hotel, tired but content after a long day on the road. While the light faded outside, Yosh, still full of energy, decided it was the perfect moment to prepare a fresh salsa, turning a quiet night into something simple and shared. The next day began slowly. After a refreshing dip in the hotel pool, my thoughts drifted toward a place that had fascinated me long before I ever set foot in Peru. On the road, questions kept returning. Would I be positively surprised? What awaited me out there, hidden deep in the desert? And why had this place, discovered only recently, captured my imagination so completely? The Cañón de los Perdidos, the Canyon of the Lost, lies deep within the Ocucaje Desert, southwest of Ica. Remote, silent, and almost unreal, it remained largely unknown to the outside world until 2011, despite locals having known of its existence for generations. What makes this place extraordinary is its age. Millions of years ago, this desert was once a seabed, where sand now stretches endlessly. Water once moved, carrying life through what is now one of the driest regions on Earth. Over time, the flow of the now extinct Saco River carved its way through the landscape, shaping the canyon we see today. Wind, water, and time worked together, slowly revealing layers of history beneath the surface. Paleontologists later uncovered fossilized marine remains, whale vertebrae, shark teeth, seashells, silent proof that this land is between 20 and 30 million years old. A reminder that landscapes are never fixed, only paused in time. As I approached the canyon, those thoughts grew heavier. This wasn't just another destination. It was a meeting point between past and present, a place shaped long before humans ever arrived. And standing there, surrounded by stone and silence, one thing became clear. Some places don't just surprise you. They quietly change the way you see the world.
Huh? Yeah. Keep going.
We did all this way down. Amazing, huh, Josh? Say something about your...
Cannot let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
That's why I follow you.
I have no doubt that
A place that feels less discovered than revealed, as if the land simply decided after millions of years that it was time to be seen. At first glance, the desert appears still, endless sand, harsh light, and silence stretching to the horizon. But beneath this apparent emptiness lies a story far older than memory. Millions of years ago, this landscape was not desert at all. It was a living seabed, covered by water and filled with life. Where sand now dominates, oceans once moved freely, shaping the world beneath their surface. Over time, the sea retreated. The water vanished slowly, leaving behind layers of sediment, shells, and stone, quiet witnesses to a world that no longer exists. As the climate changed, a river began to carve its path through the land. The Saco River, now extinct, flowed steadily through what is now one of the driest regions on Earth. With patience and persistence, it sculpted the canyon, cutting deep into the desert and revealing the hidden layers below. Wind followed water, erosion followed time, and slowly the Cañón del Perdido took its shape. For millions of years, it remained unseen by the wider world. Not lost in the sense of disappearance, but lost in distance and isolation, known to locals, spoken of quietly, yet untouched by modern attention. It was only in 2011 that the canyon was officially recognized, a recent discovery in human terms, but a fleeting moment in the canyon's long existence. Walking through the canyon today feels like stepping into deep time. The walls rise on either side, their layers exposed like pages in an ancient book. Each line tells a chapter written in stone, shaped by forces far beyond human scale. Fossilized remains rest within these walls. Whale vertebrae, shark teeth, seashells, proof that life once thrived where silence now reigns. A reminder that landscapes are never fixed. They are constantly becoming something else. The canyon holds a quiet power, not dramatic or overwhelming, but steady. The name Cañón de los Perdidos doesn't come from ancient legend, but from a modern story. In 2011, during an expedition to locate the canyon, a small group, including a local journalist, became lost for several hours in the complex desert terrain. When the journalist later published his report, he titled it Cañón de los Perdidos, the Canyon of the Lost. The name remained, perfectly matching a landscape that still resists easy navigation. Beyond its name, the canyon reveals details that reward close observation. Erosion by the now extinct Ica River and constant desert winds has shaped unusual formations within the canyon. Among them is the Puma's Face, a rock formation resembling the profile of a feline watching over the desert. Another is the Fish Eye, a small temporary pool fed by underground leaks, rare, fragile, and never guaranteed to appear. These features give the canyon its quiet character, a place shaped by time, named by chance, and full of small mysteries waiting to be noticed. From the desert coast, our journey now turns inland. Leaving behind the dry air and endless horizons, the road begins to climb, slowly at first, then with growing intensity. The landscape changes with every kilometer. Sand gives way to stone, and stone to steep mountain slopes carved by rivers and time. The air cools, the colors deepen, and the vast silence of the coast is replaced by the quiet presence of the Andes. As we ascend, the journey becomes more than distance. It becomes a transition between climates, between worlds. Our destination is Hidroelectrica, situated at an altitude of around 2,000 meters, a gateway where the mountains begin to close in and the rhythm of travel changes once again. Here, the Andes feel alive. Clouds drift low across the valleys, rivers cut deep paths through the rock, and the road itself becomes part of the experience. This is no longer the coast. This is the beginning of the highlands and the next chapter of the journey. The road into the Andes never announces itself. It doesn't begin with a sign or a clear moment of departure. It simply starts to rise. Leaving the desert behind, the land slowly tightens around the road. The wide horizons of the coast fade, replaced by slopes, shadows, and stone. Each kilometer pulls us higher, away from the familiar, toward a landscape shaped by altitude and patience. At first, the climb is subtle. The air still feels warm, the colors still dusty and muted, but the road knows where it's going, even when we don't. As we ascend, the desert loosens its grip. Dry riverbeds appear, tracing lines through the mountains like ancient scars. Some of them still carry water, depending on the season. Others have been silent for centuries, waiting for rain that may never come. Villages begin to appear, small, scattered, almost blending into the land itself. Homes built from stone and earth, shaped by necessity rather than design. Here, architecture follows the mountains, not the other way around. Life at altitude moves differently. There is no hurry in these places. People have learned that rushing against the mountains only leads to exhaustion. Along the road, we pass farmers working narrow terraces carved into steep hillsides. These terraces are not recent inventions. They are echoes of ancient knowledge passed down through generations who learned how to grow food where the land offers very little. Potatoes, corn, quinoa, crops adapted to thin air and unpredictable weather. Farming here is not about abundance. It's about resilience. Occasionally, someone waves as we pass. A simple gesture, unhurried. In the Andes, greetings feel less like habit and more like acknowledgement of shared presence in a demanding landscape. The road continues upward, winding through valleys that open and close without warning. Every turn reveals something new. A waterfall spilling from hidden heights, a herd of alpacas moving slowly across the slope, a lone house standing where the land seems most unforgiving. Clouds drift lower now. Sometimes they sit above us, sometimes below. At this altitude, weather is never fixed. Sunday and rain often share the same moment. As we climb higher, the sound of the engine becomes more noticeable. Not louder, just more present. The road demands attention here. Steep inclines, sharp curves, and narrow passages remind us that this is not a place built for speed. And yet, despite the effort, there is calm. The Andes have a way of slowing thought. Problems from elsewhere feel distant, irrelevant. Up here, the scale of the landscape puts everything into perspective. We stop occasionally, not because we need to, but because the view insists. Mountains stretch endlessly in every direction, layered in shades of green, brown, and gray. Some peaks are soft and rounded, others sharp and imposing. Each tells a different geological story written over millions of years. In some villages, children play near the road, watching travelers pass. Their lives unfold far from cities, far from noise and excess. School, family, work, all shaped by distance and terrain. Older generations sit outside their homes, wrapped in layers against the shifting temperature. Their faces tell stories no signboard could explain. Lives lived in rhythm with the land, through seasons that repeat but never feel the same. As altitude increases, breathing becomes more deliberate. Not difficult, just conscious. Every step, every movement reminds us that we are visitors here. The road climbs past 2,000 meters, then higher. Vegetation changes again. Trees thin out, replaced by shrubs and grasses that cling close to the ground. Life adapts quietly, efficiently. At times, the road feels carved rather than built, pressed into the mountain as if permission had to be negotiated. Rock walls rise close on one side, while the other drops away into deep valleys below. Rivers cut through the Andes with incredible force. They have shaped this La. The road continues to climb, bending toward the peaks, then dropping again into deep valleys carved by time. Each ascent feels earned. Each descent reminds us how fragile our presence is in these mountains. Switchback after switchback, the Andes reveal themselves slowly. The engine works harder, the air grows thinner, and the landscape reshapes itself with every turn. Rock replaces soil. Grass clings lower to the ground. Clouds drift closer, sometimes brushing the road itself. There is a rhythm to this journey. Upward into silence, downward into shadow, moments of vast openness followed by narrow passages where the mountains press in close as if watching. Villages become rarer here. When they appear, they feel temporary. A few houses, a small field, a road that passes through but never lingers. Life at this altitude adapts quietly, without spectacle. People who live here understand the mountains in a way outsiders never fully can. They know when to move, when to wait. They read the sky not for beauty, but for signs. Weather is not a background here. It is a constant companion. As we climb higher, sound changes. The wind becomes sharper, the road quieter. Even conversation fades, replaced by long stretches of thought. And then, almost without warning, the road levels out somewhere near the top. The mountains loosen their grip. The steep slopes soften, the horizon widens, and a plateau opens up. Unexpected, calm, expansive. Here, everything feels different. The tension of the climb releases, breathing slows, movement feels lighter. At the center of this high open land lies a lake, still, silent, almost unreal. In the gentle morning light, its surface reflects the sky so perfectly that it's hard to tell where water ends and air begins. The mountains no longer loom, they stand back, respectful, as if allowing this place its own space. The light is soft here, filtered through thin clouds and altitude. Colors feel cleaner, blues deeper, greens more fragile. I stop without thinking. Some places don't ask for attention, they simply take it. The lake does not announce itself. There are no signs, no crowds, no urgency. Just water resting at altitude, shaped by glaciers, rain, and time. Moments like this remind you why the road matters, why the climb, the curves, the fatigue are all part of something larger. At this height, everything feels suspended. The past, the next destination, the noise of elsewhere, all held at a distance. The lake feels ancient, not because of age alone, but because of stillness. As if it has watched countless travelers arrive with expectation, only to leave quieter than they came. Wind moves gently across the surface, barely disturbing the reflection. Birds circle overhead, unbothered. Life here exists without hurry. Standing on this plateau, it becomes clear that the Andes are not only about extremes, not just steep climbs and dramatic drops. They are also about balance, about moments where effort gives way to calm, where movement pauses, where the reward is not something to conquer, but something to witness. The road will continue. It always does. Soon it will descend again, pulling us back into valleys, forests, and the next chapter of the journey. But for now, the mountains allow us this moment. Morning light that asks nothing in return, and the simple realization that sometimes the most powerful places are the ones that leave you speechless. And then, without warning, they appear. The first herd of alpacas. We pull over and step out, drawn by curiosity more than intention. For the first time, I see an alpaca in real life. Calm, observant, perfectly at home in this vast landscape. In the Andes, alpacas are more than animals. Centuries they have been companions to the people of the highlands, a source of warmth, livelihood, and survival. Their presence here feels as natural as the mountains themselves. As if sensing our presence, or perhaps simply following an ancient rhythm, two of them step forward. What unfolds feels almost ceremonial, a quiet ritual, unfamiliar to us yet deeply rooted in this land. The rest of the herd watches closely, still, attentive, just as we do. For the Andes, this moment is nothing unusual. Such scenes have repeated themselves for hundreds of years, woven into daily life at altitude. But for us, it feels rare. A brief glimpse into traditions shaped by patience, coexistence, and respect for nature. We don't rush. We simply stay for a moment to observe, to listen, and to honor a ritual that belongs to these mountains. The road stretches on, winding endlessly across the plateau, a pale line drawn gently across the earth. It moves without urgency, without promise, as if it has always been here, and will remain long after we are gone. At first, the landscape feels almost bare, too open, too quiet, a place where nothing seems to happen. But the longer we travel, the more that feeling dissolves. This land does not reveal itself quickly. It does not compete for attention. Its beauty lives in restraint. The plateau breathes in wide, measured intervals. Wind glides freely, unbroken, carrying the scent of grass and stone. Clouds drift slowly overhead, their shadows sliding across the ground like thoughts passing through the mind. Here, distance loses its meaning. The horizon feels both close and impossibly far away. Time stretches, softens, and loosens its grip. The road becomes a quiet companion. It asks nothing of us. It simply guides us forward, encouraging stillness rather than speed. Nothing interrupts the view. No towering peaks, no dramatic cliffs, just subtle variations in color, texture, and light. And yet, within this simplicity, the scale becomes overwhelming. The land feels vast, not because it is loud, but because it is patient. Every so often, a detail emerges. A lone fence disappearing into the distance, a distant silhouette moving slowly across the plain, a structure so small it seems almost accidental. These moments feel intimate against the immensity, as if the land is quietly reminding us how small we truly are. Thoughts begin to wander here. Without distraction, the mind slows. Memories surface, questions drift in, then gently pass. This is a place where nature does not perform. It exists, and in that existence, it captivates us. The plateau teaches a different kind of awe, one rooted not in drama but in endurance, in the understanding that beauty does not need excess to be profound. As the road continues forward, we follow in silence, learning to listen to what cannot be spoken. to the wind, to the space, to the quiet power of a land that has never needed our attention, yet somehow holds it completely. Up on the plateau, time flows differently, not measured in minutes or hours, but in stillness. It stretches outward wide and uninterrupted until it begins to feel like eternity. Nothing rushes here. The land remains unchanged, unmoved by urgency. The wind passes, the light shifts, and yet everything feels suspended, as if the plateau exists outside of time itself. This silence is broken only by what happens below. Down in the valleys, life unfolds with a different rhythm. Here, people move with purpose. Days are shaped by work, by weather, by routine. Voices carry, paths intersect. Time gains weight again. In these settled places, moments stack upon each other. Morning becomes afternoon, afternoon becomes night. The intensity of living compresses time, giving it pace, direction, meaning. Up above, the plateau watches quietly. Its stillness is not emptiness, it is memory. A reminder of how the land existed long before movement, before settlement, before the need to hurry. And yet, in the valleys, everything feels strangely present. Though shaped by tradition and history, life there is immediate. Hands work, children play, smoke rises from rooftops. The plateau holds time. The valleys spend it. Between the two, the road moves, connecting stillness and motion, eternity and the everyday. And somewhere along this passage, we begin to understand that time is not fixed. It changes with place, with presence, with the way we choose to inhabit the land. Here, nothing is forgotten, not the silence above, nor the life below. Everything exists at once, ancient and alive, motionless and moving, present, even when it feels like the past. Honestly, I expected this land to be emptier, more untouched, more distant from human presence, but the mountains tell a different story. Every valley, every slope, every narrow stretch of workable land has been claimed, not by force, but by necessity. People have settled into every niche that nature has allowed them. Houses cling to hillsides, fields are carved carefully into steep terrain. Life unfolds where it seems least possible. These are not places chosen for comfort. They are places chosen for survival. The people here live in constant dialogue with the land, reading the weather, respecting the seasons, adapting without resistance. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is taken for granted. Seen from a distance, the Andes feel harsh and unyielding. But look closer, and you realize they are inhabited by resilience. These people are not merely living here. They are enduring, adapting, surviving. And in doing so, they remind us that human presence does not always conquer nature. Sometimes, it simply learns how to belong. Slowly, the road carries us toward Nazca. At first, it feels like just another quiet stop in the desert, remote, understated, almost forgotten. Until recently, few people outside Peru had heard of this place. But beneath this vast and arid landscape lies one of the world's most enduring mysteries. More than 2,000 years ago, the Nazca culture flourished here. Between 200 BCE and 600 CE, they created enormous figures in geometric shapes etched directly into the desert floor, designs so vast they can only be fully seen from the air. The Nazca lines were formed by removing dark surface stones to reveal lighter earth beneath, a simple method carried out with remarkable precision. How and why they were created remains debated. Some believe the lines were ceremonial paths, linked to rituals for water and fertility. Others suggest they formed an astronomical calendar. And then there are the more controversial theories, ideas that continue to fuel curiosity and debate. What is certain is that the lines were no accident. They required planning, coordination, and deep knowledge of the land. As we approach Nazca, the desert no longer feels empty. It feels intentional, as if every stretch of ground carries meaning. Today, Nazca has become an essential stop for those traveling through Peru, not because all answers have been found, but because some mysteries refuse to fade. Nazca is not just a place on the map. It is a question written into the desert, still waiting to be answered.
Wow, what an experience. Broke some records today. Some really amazing footage was taken. Definitely, this is one for the books.
But not for the records for yesterday. It was something different.
The records from yesterday are definitely hard to beat. But the view is beautiful.
Muchos graciela.
Up at the top of the mountain, everything changes, not gradually, but all at once. Light drifts and reshapes the world in seconds. The air thins, quiet and sharp, and the weather arrives without asking. A clear horizon dissolves into cloud. Shadows stretch, then disappear. The landscape breathes, unsettled and alive. Nothing here stays fixed for long. Certainty fades. The mountain speaks through change, through movement rather than sound, reminding us that control is an illusion. At this height, we don't lead the journey. We listen, we adjust, and for a moment, we belong to the rhythm of the sky. The highlight of the day came when we met Carmen. That's the name we gave to a llama who decided entirely on her own terms to join us for a while. Curious, calm, and surprisingly affectionate, she approached with the confidence of someone who clearly belonged here. In Andean culture, llamas are more than animals. They are symbols of balance, patience, and harmony with the land, quiet companions of the mountains for centuries. And Carmen carried that spirit effortlessly. She observed us closely as if deciding whether we were worthy guests. Then, satisfied, she stayed. In that moment, the Andes felt less distant, less monumental, almost welcoming. Carmen became our unexpected guide, an ambassador of these highlands, posing without complaint, offering us time, curiosity, and a few unforgettable photographs. She gave us something rare. Not just images, but moments of connection, playful, magical, and entirely unplanned. When she finally moved on, it felt like a small blessing. A reminder that in the Andes, encounters don't happen by chance. They happen when you slow down enough to notice them. From mountains to valleys, from deserted plateaus to places full of life, the land changes with every kilometer. The high silence of the Andes slowly gives way to movement, to cultivated fields, small settlements and paths shaped by generations who learned how to live with the mountains, not against them. Through it all, the road remains our constant companion. It winds through altitude and climate, through stillness and activity, guiding us steadily forward. In the Andes, travel has always been more than movement. These routes once connected communities, carried stories, and followed the natural lines of the land. Even today, they echo an older understanding that the journey itself is part of the destination. As the road leads us closer to Machu Picchu, the landscape feels charged with meaning. Here, nature is not separate from belief. The mountains are living presences, and the land is treated with respect. As Pachamama, Mother Earth, we move forward quietly, aware that we are passing through a place where history, spirituality, and daily life are inseparable. The road does not rush us. It prepares us not just for what we are about to see, but for how we are meant to arrive. On the way to Machu Picchu, the journey asks us to slow down once again. Before reaching the ancient citadel, there is one final transition ahead, a place where the road will end and movement will become personal. That place is called Hidroelectrica. It is not a destination in the traditional sense. There are no monuments, no grand views, no sense of arrival waiting there. Hidroelectrica exists as a threshold, a functional place shaped by necessity, not spectacle. Soon, this is where we will leave the car behind, where the engine will fall silent, and where the journey will begin to feel different. From that point on, there will be no road to follow, no steering wheel, no acceleration, only a path stretching forward. To reach Aguascalientes, the last town before Machu Picchu, we will walk roughly 10 kilometers. The distance is not extreme, but it demands attention. It demands presence. The route will follow the railway line through a narrow valley carved by rivers, rain, and dense vegetation. Steel tracks will run beside us, guiding the way. A reminder that this path has been traveled countless times before by locals, workers, and travelers drawn toward the same destination. For now, we continue to move forward, knowing that the nature of the journey is about to change. We haven't reached Hidroelectrica yet, but the road is already preparing us, because what lies ahead is no longer about distance, it's about intention. Unpaved roads carved by wind and water through desert sand, serpentines clinging to mountainsides, high-altitude plateaus where the land offers no shelter. Ancient tracks cutting through jungle so dense they seem to close behind you. We thought we had seen everything, but all of it was only a prelude because nothing prepared us for the road to Hidroelectrica. The further we went, the worse it became. The road narrowed, the ground loosened. Every turn demanded full attention. Then came the warnings. Cars appeared from the opposite direction, rare but unmistakable. Mostly microbuses filled with tourists, each one slowed, drivers leaning out, shaking their heads. Turn back. Every gesture said the same thing. Something ahead was wrong. We didn't yet know what awaited us, only that the road had become a test rather than a route. Steep drops, mud where there should have been stone, a sense that retreat might be the wiser choice. Doubt settled in, but stubbornness has weight, and sometimes it pushes harder than fear. Against advice, against instinct, we kept going, slowly, carefully, because turning back felt like surrender. Only my stubbornness and Yosh's carried us forward. And when we finally understood why so many had chosen to stop, it became clear. This road wasn't meant to be conquered. It was meant to decide who would continue. Arriving at Hidroelectrica, we finally stopped the car. There is no proper parking lot, only a narrow piece of land watched over by a local who, for a few coins, takes responsibility for the vehicles of those who have managed to reach this point. It feels improvised, fragile. Like everything here depends on trust. We leave the car behind and step away from the last certainty we have. From here on, the journey continues on foot. The path follows the riverbank, guided by the railway line running beside us, the same tracks used by the train heading toward Aguas Calientes. We could take it, but we decide to walk the entire distance, 10 kilometers, 2 to 3 hours, on paper. But nothing about this day has gone according to plan. The road to Hidroelectrica took far longer than expected. Deep potholes slowed us to a crawl. Entire sections of road were gone. Rocks had fallen from the mountains, covering what used to be a passable route. Each obstacle cost us time. By the time we arrived, the light was already failing. Now, as we take our first steps along the tracks, darkness begins to settle into the valley. Shadows stretch unnaturally long, details disappear. The sound of the river grows louder, closer. There are no lights ahead, no signs. Only the rails, cold metallic, disappearing into the dark. Turning back is no longer an option. The car is behind us. The road is gone. Every step now carries weight. The walk that was meant to be routine becomes deliberate, cautious. We listen more closely, watch the ground more carefully. The valley narrows, the forest presses in, and the night makes everything feel closer and more uncertain. This is no longer just a path to Aguas Calientes. It is a test of patience, resolve, and trust in the direction we've chosen. As darkness fully takes hold, one thing becomes clear. The final stretch of this journey will demand everything we have left. Finally, we arrive in Aguas Calientes. Lights appear through the darkness. Voices replace the sound of the river, and the long walk quietly comes to an end. We check into the hotel without ceremony, drop our packs, let the fatigue settle. Hunger follows quickly. We step back outside and find a place to eat. Simple, warm, exactly what we need. That night, I try alpaca ribs. I think it's the first time in my life. The taste feels unfamiliar, but fitting. Another small reminder of where we are and how far we've come. There's no celebration, no long conversations, just food, exhaustion, and the quiet satisfaction of having made it. Soon after, we sleep. Tomorrow is the reason for all of this. Tomorrow, we go to Machu Picchu. Morning arrives quietly in Aguas Calientes. The fatigue from the night before still lingers, heavy in the body. Legs remember every step of the walk. Sleep feels too short, but anticipation makes rest unnecessary. There is only one practical way to reach Machu Picchu from here: by bus. Technically, it's also possible to walk up, a steep climb through forest and stone. I'm certain Josh would have enjoyed that challenge. But after the long night march, the choice is clear. To arrive on time, we take the bus. Access to Machu Picchu is strictly regulated. Entry times are fixed, reservations mandatory, and once inside, time is limited. You don't wander freely, you move within a carefully defined window. So the bus becomes more than transport.
Very impressive. Impressive building style. But in current day, 21st century, it's way too beautiful. But beautiful views. I'm glad that we came, we saw, we took pictures.
It becomes permission. The road climbs quickly, winding through dense jungle and tight serpentines. Each turn reveals less of what lies ahead, not more. The mountain keeps its secret well. As we rise, mist drifts through the trees, the air cools, sound softens, And then, suddenly, we arrive. Machu Picchu was built in the 15th century during the height of the Inca Empire, most likely under the rule of Emperor Pachacuti. Its exact purpose is still debated. Some believe it was a royal estate. Others suggest it served as a ceremonial or religious center. What is certain is that it was carefully planned, not only architecturally, but spiritually. The Incas chose this location deliberately. Perched high above the Urubamba River, Machu Picchu sits between mountains considered sacred, apus, living spirits in Andean belief. For the Incas, mountains were not obstacles, they were guardians. The city itself is divided into distinct areas: agricultural terraces designed to prevent erosion, residential zones, ceremonial spaces aligned with the sun, the stars, and the surrounding peaks. What continues to astonish historians and engineers alike is the precision. The stones were cut and fitted without mortar, locked together so tightly that even today a blade cannot slip between them. This technique allowed the city to withstand centuries of earthquakes. Machu Picchu was never discovered by the Spanish conquistadors. When the Inca Empire fell, the site was abandoned, gradually reclaimed by jungle, protected by isolation. It remained largely unknown to the outside world until 1911, when American explorer Hiram Bingham brought international attention to it. Though locals were always aware of its existence, Machu Picchu entered global history only then. Walking through the ruins today, it's impossible not to feel the layers of time. This was not a city built for permanence in the modern sense. It was built to exist in harmony with its environment. Water channels still run through the site, fed by natural springs. Terraces still hold the mountain in place. Everything feels intentional. There is no excess here, no monument built for vanity, only balance. As we move through the stone corridors and open plazas, the scale becomes clear. Not vast, but precise. Human-sized, intimate. This was a place meant to be experienced slowly. The limited time inside only heightens that awareness. Every moment matters. Every view feels borrowed. Clouds drift across the ruins, revealing and concealing the city in turns. Sometimes Machu Picchu appears fully, sharp, defined, unmistakable. Then, just as quickly, it disappears into mist. It feels alive, not frozen in history, but breathing. Standing here, exhaustion fades into insignificance. The long road, the night walk, the doubts, all of it feels justified, because Machu Picchu is not simply a destination. It is a meeting point between nature and design, between belief and engineering, between what was lost and what somehow endured. We didn't walk up the mountain this morning, but the journey brought us here all the same. And as we stand among these stones, surrounded by cloud and silence, it becomes clear that Machu Picchu is not meant to be conquered. It is meant to be approached with humility and for a brief moment allowed to reveal itself. In the midst of all the mystery surrounding Machu Picchu, there is room for simple human moments. We end up sharing a few smiles with a group of Asian women, strangers just moments before. A short photo session follows. Laughter, gestures, the universal language of travel. For a brief moment, the ancient stones become a meeting point between cultures, different paths, different stories, all crossing here. Then, just as easily, we part ways, each continuing our own exploration, carrying the same quiet wonder forward. As our time at Machu Picchu comes to an end, the crowds thin and the sounds soften. The stones remain, unchanged, holding their silence. What stays with us isn't just what we've seen, but what we've felt. The weight of history, the balance between human intention and nature's power. Machu Picchu doesn't reveal itself all at once. It allows only fragments, glimpses shaped by mist, light, and time. Enough to wonder, never enough to fully understand. And perhaps that is its greatest strength. This place was never meant to be explained or possessed. It was meant to be approached with respect, experienced briefly, and then left behind, exactly as we found it. As we turn away, the city slowly disappears back into the clouds, returning to the mountains that have guarded it for centuries. We leave with fewer answers than we arrived with, but with a deeper sense of perspective. Because Machu Picchu is not just a destination, it is a reminder that some places exist beyond us, and that our role is not to conquer them, but simply to listen. Leaving Aguascalientes, the journey toward Cusco takes us through one of the most important regions of the Inca Empire, the Sacred Valley. This valley was the agricultural heart of the empire. Shaped by the Urubamba River, its fertile soil and mild climate made it ideal for large-scale farming. The Incas engineered extensive terraces along the hillsides, allowing crops to grow at different altitudes. Corn, potatoes, and quinoa thrived here, feeding Cusco and supporting a population spread across the mountains. But the valley was more than farmland. It was a strategic corridor. This route connected Machu Picchu to Cusco, allowing the movement of people, goods, and information. Messengers, known as chasquis, ran these paths, carrying messages across vast distances with remarkable speed. Settlements developed along the valley, each with a specific role. Some focused on agriculture, others on administration or ceremony. Stone construction here reveals the same precision seen at Machu Picchu. Walls fitted without mortar, structures aligned with the landscape, designed to endure earthquakes and time. What makes the Sacred Valley unique is its continuity. Unlike Machu Picchu, which was abandoned, the valley never emptied. Communities adapted, survived conquest, and continued to live on this land. Today, villages, markets, and fields still follow patterns established centuries ago. The valley remains productive, not as a relic, but as a living landscape. Passing through here offers context. It shows how Machu Picchu functioned within a larger system, and how Cusco drew its power from the land around it. By the time Cusco appears ahead, it becomes clear that the city was not isolated. It was sustained, protected, and connected by the Sacred Valley. After days of dust, altitude, and constant movement, this meal feels earned. Josh and I sit down tired but deeply satisfied, the kind of tired that only comes from real adventure. A warm Andean soup arrives first, built on potatoes born in these mountains. There is choclo, the giant corn of the Andes, and fresh white cheese made close to home. Small bowls of ají add warmth and fire, the final touch. And then, alpaca, simple, lean, and rooted in highland tradition. We eat quietly, sharing smiles more than words. For a moment, everything slows down, and the Andes feel closer. As the day fades, Cusco slowly settles into the night. The streets grow quieter, the stones cool, and the city exhales. This place has given us history, movement, and contrast. Ancient foundations beneath modern life. Stories layered one upon another. But Cusco is not where the journey pauses. It's where it redirects. Beyond these streets, the road continues toward higher altitudes, harsher landscapes, and challenges shaped not by history, but by nature itself. The Andes still have more to reveal. New colors, new limits, new questions. For now, we leave Cusco behind, carrying its energy with us, knowing that what comes next will test us in different ways. This chapter closes here. But the journey is far from over. In the next episode, the road climbs again toward the Rainbow Mountains and beyond.